All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I think we have one of what I believe will be one of the most thought provoking conversations we'll have with Dr. Hall today. And that are you truly ready for success? Have you put the right amount of thought into it and really know kind of what you're aiming for and what's entailed in acquiring that success? And by the way, who are you doing it with when you get there? What does your day to day look like? And then, the downfalls of realizing success too soon and not having the proper foundation to get into. So we're going to cover all of those topics today. So we're going to introduce Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall is a business psychologist, executive coach, does public speaking. He's a multi-time author, and we affectionately call him the Neuro Nerd. How are you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
I'm excellent, excellent. I always get excited about these conversations because I walk away just really feeling encouraged in life in general. So I'm excited as usual. Let's see. Let me do a couple housekeeping items here real quick for those of you that I haven't met before. My name is Jared Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead at MHC Realty, also known as My Home Connection. Our sponsor for today. Today's episode is the perfect real estate business. We are looking to help you develop the perfect real estate business for yourself personally, incorporating a lot of the new trends coming online, certainly, and then in collaboration with Dr. Hall, introducing business coaching, life coaching, a lot of the things that should precede developing out that real estate business. And then obviously we're including things that are just kind of fundamental with lead generation, revenue share, trying to get into some of the passive income side of things. So feel free to reach out at any time if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the perfect real estate business. But with that, we'll bring in Dr. Hall. And I guess my perception is in my experience that all too often we don't put as much thought into what success really looks like. We just generally think we need to be there. What's your take?
Well, it's like that Alice in Wonderland line. Alice comes into Wonderland and asks, I think, the Queen of Hearts, where should I go? And she says, where do you want to be? Where do you want to end up? And she says, I don't know. And she says, then any path will do.
Oh, wow. Well
So
said.
if
Yeah.
you don't know where you want to end up, do anything. But having some end in mind is an important place to start. I'm going to use a word that I think is massively overused in the business space, which is to have a personal vision. And people talk about what this personal vision is, and it's mystical, and that's ridiculous. A vision is essentially a picture you have in your head of you in a future state. That's all it is. It's just this imagination of what it'll look like when you get to the end. That's all it is. And it's been so overused now. People they bat it around, like a badminton birdie, without ever really thinking. All it is come up with a picture of what you want your life to look like.
Yeah. So, what is that personal definition? We've talked in some other episodes about, and I just referenced it in the describing the perfect real estate business is, it's a personal thing. We've talked about other, coaching systems and platforms are typically developing something that's worked for them or works for a large amount of people, but it might not necessarily very well map to who you are, how you think, and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, there's a wonderful book I read called The End of Average, and I highly recommend it because the author of that book makes the same point. No one is average. And so if you come up with, quote, a system, a foolproof system, it'll work for the average person. However, there are no average people. So it'll work with some better than others. Some it won't work well at all. So an individualized approach of understanding, what are my talents? What am I skilled at? What am I interested in? What's my personality? What are my values? What are the realities of the world in terms of like the job market or what can be done? Those are the things that play into your individualized approach for what success looks like. And we'll look at values. If you say, I want a lot of autonomy. I want to be left alone, freedom, liberty. If that's a value of yours, then you can't have security. Those two just don't go together.
Right.
I mean, you degree of security, but if it's like I want to be completely and totally, absolutely secure, okay, then you've got to find someplace where you don't have a lot of freedom, but you have the appearance of security. Go get a government job. The job ain't gonna go away, but you won't have a lot of freedom. So you have to figure out what your value is, and people's definitions of success are different. So you have to figure out what that looks like for you, given your personality, your skills, your values, your interests, and then the realities of life.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that seemed really daunting in us building the perfect real estate business is helping individuals, develop out something that maps to their own unique, personality and what's going to excite them short, mid, and long term. And obviously, it's an individual thing. So to just create a curriculum and a course and a program and jump on this hamster wheel or on this treadmill and start running, which pre-packaged in the box programs, hey, kudos to you if you find a program that works really well and fits right in line with, that's great. But how often does that happen?
Yeah, it depends on your success in someone else's model will work the closer you are on your personality, your skills, your values, your interests, and your reality, your personal realities to the person who invented the system. So, I mean, if the person who invented the system says you're going to make stacks of cash and you're going to spend a lot of time, doing mundane process work in order to keep those stacks of cash coming, and I really love that. Well, if you like routine process work, awesome. But if you don't, then you're going to fail at that system and you won't stack up cash because your interests and your values are aligned, but your interests aren't, and if you're no good at taking care of details, then your skills don't align and you won't have that monetary success.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think I love, the expedition course that we'll take agents through to help really identify, what that means. And I personally have experience that I really didn't kind of know. I feel like I a little bit fell into the, what culture would teach me as what success means, as opposed to how I really feel inside when I'm successful. I have over time realized emotional currency to me is kind of everything. I heard that term somewhere, so I'm not going to pretend like I made it up, but it's been so long, I don't remember where I heard it. But, for example, if investors come to me in real estate, I struggle to get excited about doing that because it's about numbers. At the end of the day, it's typically about numbers. And you're not going to get a hug at the closing table from your investor, but to me, that's the true sign of success. People are so excited. They're just super appreciative. People don't just give you a hug for no reason like that. That's usually a really heartfelt thing. And you accomplished a lot in the process. And that's what I had to determine in my own head is that's my version of success is that emotional currency I get in that process.
Right. So, I mean, you like to make money. That's important. But if the emotional currency, as you described it, isn't there, if it's just a numbers transaction, you're not as interested in that.
Right.
And so that gets at what that desire for emotional currency. That's part of your personality, part of your values. Those two things together help you define what success is for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be different for everybody. Like you said, if you're, in a different position, security might mean everything. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you
I mean, so I've worked with people who they want to start a business, but they have a child with a pervasive disability with really really high medical costs, and as much as they'd like to take that risk, their personal reality um, means that it would be financially ruinous if they didn't have good insurance. So you have to look at your life in totality, um, and the quote success gurus say come follow me, and they don't have the same life as you do, and the success gurus will tell you do my thing and you'll have this wonderful outcome, but they're playing with your life. They don't have skin in the game for your life.
right.
And so you really need to be really aware of, what are the costs and benefits to me, not because some guru said this is the way a successful life looks.
Yeah. Yeah. What are they telling you? What is their definition of success? And if it's, briefcases of cash, you know,
Yeah, I mean, if it's exotic cars and champagne and caviar, if that's their definition of success, that's great for them. That's not how I define success. Um, and you have to figure that out for yourself. I would say one of the common misconceptions people get with me is when I tell people, part of my job is to help um, business owners and professionals become more successful. Almost always, people think that means making more money. And very often, that's part of it. But the most successful people I've worked with, it's never their goal. That money is always a side effect
hmm
of pursuing something else.
yeah.
And so they love the work, and their love of the work makes them practice it more, which makes them more excellent at the work, which the reward for excellence at work is more money. But it's very rarely just the pursuit of cash.
Yeah.
Um, I'm thinking of a guy I used to work with. I won't give you any identifying information, but he's a former professional athlete and had what most people would consider tremendous success in the athletic field, and then moved to become the chief operating officer for a large corporation. And now he's in a different phase of life. And for him, now success looks like becoming good at photography and coaching his grandchildren in the sport that he used to play.
Mm.
And so for him, the fame motive, been there, done that. That was fine. The money motive, yeah, I got enough money. But, if as he looks at it now, he's got this rewarding, wonderful relationship with his wife. He's got this rewarding, wonderful relationship with his children and now his grandchildren. And he loves nerding out on photography. That's a successful life
Yeah.
at
Very.
his phase in life.
Yeah. Love it. I sometimes see, and maybe I'm conflating the two, but the definition of success becomes an identity. And when you can no longer be successful in whatever you're doing to the level you feel like you need to be, sports is a good example, right? At some point, you're going to age out. Like it's just going to happen. So if your
Yes.
identity is mapped in that and you can't redefine success, you're going to feel a sense of loss because your identity is wrapped up in how good you are at that sport or whatever.
Yeah, and I feel very badly for people who have succeeded in professional athletics who don't have a plan for the most of their life. If you look at professional football, the average time in the league is about 5 years, and 2/3 of the guys leave the league with a permanent disability. And okay, so you do the math and you think, okay, you go into the league at 22, you're out by 27. If you've been in there for a long time, maybe 30, that's a 35-year run for the rest of your working life, maybe a 40-year run for the rest of your working life. What are you going to do? And there are so many people who have had wonderful careers after professional athletics because they figured out, okay, I, I haven't wrapped my identity in that. What else do I love? And
Yeah.
then how do I pursue that? And
Yeah.
finding out what you really love to do can be super rewarding for the other part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is obviously one of four segments here in today's topic, but I think it's super important. And the last thing I think that I'll say is, if your definition is in success is money related, good luck with that, because that threshold of what you think is money, somebody's always going to come along and go, you're always going to feel inferior to somebody else's money, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So my attitude about money is everybody needs a certain amount so that it ceases to become the driving force of your life. But after that certain amount, um, you can buy more stuff, you can get more toys, but it doesn't appreciably change your life. And people like Warren Buffett, who are exceedingly good at making money, his lifestyle hasn't changed. And for him, money is just a way for him to keep score. Was I successful this year? Did did I make more money? There's no way he can spend it all, but he has created more good for all the companies he's invested in and have grown, and that's allowed them to hire more people, and he's used the money. The money has made more money and made more jobs and made more opportunity. So anyway, so there's a basic level that you need, and after a certain point, you just can't buy any more stuff. You just got enough stuff, and so you just have to start using your money for something else. So money money doesn't create happiness, but lack of money creates misery. That's the way I put it.
There you go. Yeah. Well, and I like your, kind of describing how Warren Buffett probably looks at it. If you consider money as muscle, his scorecard or his ratings of how much money did he make isn't necessarily what he's striving for, but he's using that money as muscle to do bigger and better things, creating jobs, moving, you know, whatever things forward with that money. And money's just evidence of how much he can do those things.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's this common misconception for people who have lots of money that they're like Scrooge McDuck, who has a room full of money that he swims around in. Nope. Maybe there is a guy out there who has money that he swims around in. But what are you going to do with it? You have to put it to work.
Yeah.
So success can be defined by money, and certainly by a minimum amount of money. But if you're just lopsided and just have one thing going for you, then it doesn't work really well. And I'm using this analogy that a friend of mine taught me, which is like each one of these parts of your life is like a spoke on a wheel. And if one of the spokes is broken or short, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And if your wheel only has one spoke, which is money, it isn't going to roll. So you have to look at all these areas of your life to define success.
Yeah, and I do want to come back to your version of success, because we talked about it a little bit pre-show, but I'll interject, mine real quick. And I think in large part you illuminated this to me, is we're an integrated being, and I work very hard on, I'd like to think all aspects of my life to continue moving those forward in a positive manner, right? I remember if it came from you or a different book, but I work as hard on my self development. I put as many hours in. I try to as the hours that I work in a week. If I'm doing a 50-hour work week, I'm trying to develop myself an additional 50 hours. It's in reading. It's in exercise.
Yeah.
It's in whatever. I thought at first that was kind of a crazy aspiration and a goal. Like how are you going to put in as much effort in developing yourself as work? But I think that's a good goal to have.
Oh, yeah, and I'll dovetail on that. I think audiobooks are a wonderful invention. And are they different than reading the book? Yes. But if people go, oh, I don't do audiobooks because it's not the same. Well, no, it's not the same. But you could also say, well, I'm going to not listen to anything at all, and you get nothing. But I'll give you an example. I was working in the yard over the weekend, and I spent a lot of time outside, and I had my headphones in, and I listened to two books. While I'm digging holes and fixing irrigation.
Yeah.
And so I was able to develop my brain while I was taking care of my lawn.
Yeah, that habit stacking is that you've taught me is certainly I don't know, a cheat code or what have you. If I'm trying to do 50 hours a week, when I go on my, I'm doing 5 miles a day, so roughly 90 minutes. I consider it 3 hours because I'm listening to an audiobook and walking. So
Yeah. 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 And, if you do those things together, stack them together, you get double benefits. So you can absolutely do that to help yourself with your personal improvement. One of the characteristics I find of successful people is that they are self-developing. They're interested in improving themselves, learning and growing. It's not just the accumulation of things. It's not just the accumulation of status or awards. It's about, how do I become a better person? How do I live a more fulfilling life?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, I think that's a really good segue into the next part is visualizing, mapping out. What are you doing when you're successful? So you have hopefully a good idea of what success means, but what are you doing on a day-to-day basis, and who are you doing it with? Right. I wish I could remember exactly what idea popped into my head over the weekend, but it's not, happiness or joy isn't, what I'm doing or where I'm doing it, but it's in large part who I'm doing it with. I got, to spend time with my family, kids and grandkids over the weekend, and there's just nothing to me more important than my faith. And so, and I could have done that anywhere. Spend time with
Yeah.
my family. I don't need
Yeah.
to be in the Riviera or wherever fancy smancy place.
And the Riviera would be fun, but the Riviera isn't what makes a successful life. If to your point, if we look at the Harvard study of men, it's called the Grant study of men, done in Harvard, started in the 1940s and followed men from the 1940s up till now. Now, most of those guys have died, and they're tracking their wives and their kids now for the next generation. One of the big takeaways from this longitudinal study is that life satisfaction, which is this scientific way you talk about happiness, was correlated strongest. Anyway, the strongest correlation with happiness or life satisfaction was the quality of those primary love relationships. They didn't find any relationship between having money. They didn't find any relationship with status. And none of those are bad, but they don't lead to fulfillment. They don't lead to life satisfaction. The other finding was, how much did you enjoy your work? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't how much money you made at work, but you're spending half of your waking life doing work. How much did you enjoy the type of work that you did? And so as we look at two of the factors of success, one of them you talked about was, am I spending it with people I love? And you got to spend that over the weekend, and what a joy that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and didn't that study or similar studies also correlate to longevity of life? I think there's a correlation in that to people living longer.
Well, those are different studies. That's the blue zones studies.
Okay.
And so they looked at areas in the world where people had greater longevity. Nutrition was a big factor in that. Having life purpose, but high quality relationships. And in some of those areas, a strong religious commitment was a big piece of it. So you see this combination of purpose, of nutrition, of family relationships with issues of faith as well. And all of those things are correlated with longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Well, I interjected another piece here, and I'm a cautionary tale on some of these things we talk about. So, be warned. So, my tendency in life has usually been kind of go fast, sprinter, get there, sooner than later, results oriented, just high performance, you know. But as I get older, and my guess is wiser, the, the where you're going and how long it takes to get there and the foundation you lay with others, kind of what it is worded here. You can go far with others as opposed to, going fast. I'm way more of an advocate, proponent of that scenario because I'm just enjoying my journey. I don't own everything I'm doing. I don't shoulder that whole burden. Another, thing that I realized over the weekend was, I've got a handful of listings, and the team that we have just really rallied and helped do the open houses. And I was able to spend time with my family instead of wondering, I wasn't sitting all these open houses where people out there, they just took care of it. And it meant the world to me. So I would say, having experienced both sides of that coin, definitely do the team thing with the right people and build a good foundation, is my recommendation. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. When it comes to people, I'm a buy and hold guy. Once I have a strong relationship with somebody, the cost of transferring to a new relationship on whatever it is so high that I don't really want to do it. So I'm very careful about who I bring into my world and how do I develop that relationship. If you're a person who churns through friends and churns through employees, the transition costs are so high to you, not just financial costs, but productivity costs, stress costs, and to have people around you that you can trust and depend on will absolutely improve your quality of life and the quality of your work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, let's see. Let's see. Let's see this third part here. If I've learned anything, it's there are no shortcuts. You know, um, plan for the long haul. Put your head down. Hopefully, you've identified the right path. You mentioned the path. Like, hey, if you don't pick a path, you don't know where you're going, and you're going to go wherever. You don't necessarily want to be there. But that's one of the things we really want to focus on at the Perfect Real Estate business is, where are you going, and be realistic that this is the long haul. But once you get there, you're going to appreciate it because it's more mapped to who you are, what you're about, when you get in your flow and all that. I don't know. I just think that's super important.
Well, the only thing I would modify is that sometimes it's less about the destination than it is about the work that you're doing. I meet so many people who are unsatisfied with their retirements because that's been the destination, and it's turned out to be kind of a bust. And they really had a lot more fun when they were working. And so as long as you're having fun and you're enjoying things, I mean, there's always going to be stress, but there's stress in doing nothing as well. So when people tell me they're retired and they're kind of puttering around, it's like, man, that's not enough. So have your destination, but have plenty to do, kind of once you reach your destination. Once once you've accomplished all you want, look for something else to accomplish.
I don't know, a different way to word it, and I probably should word it a different way, but for whatever reason, it's popping in my head. But I've become kind of a time Nazi. Uh, you know, you always hear somebody say you can't get time back, right? You
Right.
can't put a price on time. And, uh, the older I get, the more I just, I'm very particular. And you said it earlier, like, who are you with and what are they doing in your life? Are they bringing you down? Or, some people can be really soul sucked. You've talked about tornado magnets and, you know, I just not interested, you know, because that's time and energy out of my life that could be put, in a better place, a more productive place, a happier place with my family, with my friends. And I actually get a little annoyed with myself when I let people take that time when I know it's unproductive, unhelpful, toxic, or whatever time. It's like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. That's unacceptable.
Yes. So I think monitoring how you spend your attention and your energy, and one way to measure that is how you spend your time, is terribly important. That you'll start to see this really isn't worth my attention. This isn't worth my energy. This isn't worth the hours of my day, and you'll start to be far more selective. One of the things I used to do when I was a young person and was still working for minimum wage was I would determine whatever I made per hour. I would determine if this activity was worth that much money to me.
Mm.
And if it wasn't, then I didn't do it.
Mm.
So if I made $20 an hour, which I as minimum wage I never did. I think I started out making $2.73 an hour and worked
Dating
my way
yourself.
up to $3.15. But I would ask myself, is this activity that's going to take an hour worth $3.15 to me? And if it wasn't, then I'd go find something else to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like it. The other thing I did want to add in here too is I've realized just how important it is to do all the facets of what it is that you would ever ask somebody else to do. And I know we've all kind of heard that, but everybody, I don't know about everybody, but a lot of people equate success and make money and grow a team. And, there's all kinds of reasons why I want to do this. But you said picking the right team is fundamental, but also I think if you're going to lead a team, you better be ready and have done the things that you're asking them to do, because you can lose respect very quickly by saying, please go do that. And you don't really have the knowledge of what is entailed in that. Is it successful? Is it worth it?
Yeah, I just had this conversation recently that a great boss is a person who loves his or her employees, and knows how to do the work.
Mm.
And you can have a person who loves their employees and is completely clueless about what's entailed in the job. And it's a really tough combination to find somebody who cares about people and wants them to develop and also knows what they're talking about.
Yeah. 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 But I think people really, they see that and they appreciate that. And they're like, okay, that's different.
Yeah.
That's a true leader. Not just somebody that's cracking a whip and pointing in a direction and really doesn't know what is entailed in what they're asking you to do.
Yeah. And they don't have to be better. Many times the boss, the manager, isn't better at the task, but they certainly know what it takes and they understand and appreciate when they see someone who's a genius at the task, they can identify it. They know what good work looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've even had discussions, with the team. I'm like, look, this is a thing. I realize it's not my thing, but this is a thing. This might very well be right in your wheelhouse. You might just excel. But I'm just honest that this isn't my cup of tea. I'd prefer to be doing other things, but I'd encourage you to figure out if it's your thing. I've done it enough to know, in my experience, what works and doesn't work. And in part, it probably didn't work because it wasn't really my thing. So
Right.
go figure that out.
Yeah. And part of it is paying attention to, does this give me energy? And the opposite is true, which is this a task that I keep avoiding? And sometimes, the old phrase, you got to eat the frog. Okay, sometimes you do have to eat the frog. But if you keep not eating that frog, then you might want to find somebody who you hire who likes eating that frog.
Quit putting it on your plate.
Pardon, yeah.
Quit putting it on your plate.
Yeah, find someone who likes that. Oh, frog leg, yum. I mean, find the person who likes that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, it was my bookkeeping. I did it for a long time, but I kept avoiding it. Finally, I said, I got to bite the bullet and hire a bookkeeper, and my life changed because she didn't avoid it.
She's good at it.
And she was good at it, yes.
Yeah.
And my current bookkeeper is phenomenal at it.
I have kind of gone back and forth. So in our industry, I don't know if you're familiar, Dr. Hall, but a transaction coordinator, I've seen it as a blessing and a curse. I think people have used it as a crutch and brought on TCs way too soon, and they've kind of abdicated out the things that they don't want to do. I want to be in front of clients. I want to be talking with people. I like that emotional currency thing. A monitor doesn't do a lot for me. But other people, they thrive on that and they're excited and they get all their systems and they've got it all efficient and they're excited to get in front of their monitor, so my point is I've used TCs and I realized that, at some point I just said, nope, I'm doing all my work because those are opportunities for me to be in front of my client. I need to make the call, selling them, I'm sending them the documents, and I've really begun to see the importance of that. But as you scale up in what you do, you have to delegate,
Yes.
at some point. So now, I'm back to that. But again, back to what I was saying earlier, do the work, do what needs to be done so that you can't, because you're going to own that, right? If something doesn't happen, you can't just say my TC messed up because that's your TC.
Yeah. You made the mistake in hiring that TC or not monitoring that TC. I mean, it's up to you. So you have to know about the work. But as the work expands, when people generate more work, then they need help. There's an upper limit to what anybody can do. And so then you hire people who complement your weaknesses and do the things that either you're avoiding or you dislike or you're not very good at. Even if you like them, you're maybe not good at. So, but those come out of necessity, not out of, oh, I just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. But I also have kept, the high touch tech and the high touch. Again, the TC is very efficient, electronics and everything's kind of triggered and off it goes, but that high touch needs to be there. So I've made it a point to keep the touch points in there. I'm going to make the call. This is coming. Hey, I got to follow up on this, not just make assumptions that you got it. You got that utilities contact list. Hey, I want to make sure you got that utilities contact list. Do you have any questions about it? Yeah, they probably got it, but man, it's an opportunity for you to reach out to make sure they did and they appreciate it.
Yeah, and in your business, which is a very high touch business, connecting with your client over and over again helps to cement that trusting relationship. Anytime you're a trusted advisor, if it's a realtor, if it's a financial planner, if it's a lawyer, if it's a physician, trust is the currency that makes that relationship go. And the more touches they have with you, it may be not as efficient, but transactions occur when trust is there. They don't occur when trust doesn't exist.
Yeah. Very good. So let's, because we blew right past our 30 minutes. Shocker, right? That's never happened before.
Like that's never happened.
So I didn't see a good segue coming in, so let's just skip to it. But anyway, one of the things too, I think people not only want to be successful sooner than later, but I think, I personally have realized that you're not, depending on the threshold of success that you have, whatever that meaning is, and hopefully you've defined it, you might not be ready yet. So the preparation, and you speak a lot to it, and I'll butcher it, I'm sure, but basically, if money does come along with it or whatever, what keeps you out of the weeds, keeps you from going off into the ditch. And I think you call it power, as I recall. Power, you know, uh, eliminates or keeps you from being aware of the excesses of your personality
Right.
as you acquire power. Did I say that right?
The way I would define it is that character are the moral choices that you make to limit the excesses of your personality.
Mm.
And power fuels the excesses of our personalities. Because when you have power, whatever kind that is, political power, money power, fame power, administrative power, whatever kind of power you have, it eliminates the guardrails that keep you on the track. And so you can go sailing off the cliff if you don't have those guardrails. And if they're not external, because you lack money to do something stupid, or you lack influence, or you lack sway, you can't do that. So you have to have developed that internally. And that's part of your preparation, is to recognize what are my particular temptations that are going to take me off track, and how do you set up guardrails ahead of time and internally, so that when you do have more power, when you do have more freedom, then you won't go off the rails. You won't sail off the cliff.
Yeah, and I don't know that I've ever. I mean, it's human nature. Right? So to think that you're not going to have something built into your personality that wouldn't send you off the rails, I think you're just lying to yourself. So figure out what it is.
Yeah, we
And
all have those vulnerabilities. They're different for most of us. I mean, they're, but everybody has them. There's not a person in the world that doesn't have a vulnerability.
And by the way, it just occurred to me, you might not know the extent of what that is until you have some power. Let's use money as an example. Like, hey, I never fell into that trap because I didn't have enough money to do that thing.
I couldn't afford it. Yeah, I mean, there's no moral courage in not being able to afford some reckless behavior. But as soon as you have the money, yeah, that's a temptation.
Yeah. So I'm just saying to not be prepared, to not analyze what that could be, or to monitor it as you experience success in acquiring power and putting in the guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
You're just set up for failure. So here you go through all this. You've figured out what makes you tick. You figure out what your success looks like, and you're cruising along, and you get there, and you haven't done the work to be prepared for that, and now all of a sudden, boom, hand grenade,
Yeah,
because you did something stupid. I mean, some of it might be just life ending, or certainly catastrophically life changing.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Career, relationship, family ending, stupid mistakes,
yeah,
and we're all vulnerable to stupid mistakes, but we're all vulnerable to different kinds of stupid mistakes.
yeah, yeah. So, we've covered a lot here. We're about 45 minutes, but I think this has been a great conversation, and certainly something that people need to put a lot of thought into sooner than later. Let's share with people how to get a hold of you, Dr. Hall.
Yeah, you can reach me at my website, drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com. On it, you can find out about my books. I've got a book coming up called DIY Leader Brain, should be out later this year. My more recent book, DIY Brain, which is the Mindset Makeover Manual for Peak Performance. Staying Happy, Being Productive is a lot about what we talked about today. And Expedition is my leadership guidebook. On it, I've just launched an online class called Freak Out. And if you're interested in learning how to overcome anxiety so you can lead a more productive life, that's available to you there. So those are ways people can get in touch with me.
Excellent. You've got a ton of resources, so I advise you guys to certainly hit the site, contact us, and how it is that you can incorporate these tools, these resources into your real estate business. Again, the perfect real estate business is what our aspiration is. Clearly, perfection's a journey. It's not a destination. So we want to help you map out what that looks like, and that's why we've partnered with Dr. Hall to accomplish that very thing. So we'd feel honored to help. So
Yeah, grateful to be interviewed today. Thank you, Jared. Always, as usual, great topics, great questions.
yeah, pleasure having you on. And other than that, we'll wish everybody a blessed one.
All
Thanks,
right,
everyone.
thank you.